Welcome to PPACG. It's for time I've been here, so thank you for having us this morning. Thanks for hosting this meeting. It's been an exciting morning for me already, so we'll make sure this one's not so exciting. But we're going to start this morning with introductions, and we'll just kind of go around the room. Everybody say who they are and who they're with. I'll start with you, Leo.
Leo Evans, Public Works Director for City of Canyon City.
Jeff Guthrie, CDOT Region 2 Transportation Planner.
Lindsay Hawkes, CDOT Region 2 Plannings.
No, that one. Yeah.
Samantha Hughes, Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments.
And I'm Dwayne McFall, Fremont County Commissioner and Chairman of the TPR.
Dick Elsner, Park County Commissioner, Vice Chair at TPR.
Morning, everyone. Jason Nelson, CDOT Traffic Program Engineer.
Good morning, Lachelle Davis, CDOT Region 2 Local Agency Manager.
Hello, Kathleen Collins, Statewide and Regional Planning CDOT and Central Front Range TPR Planning Liaison.
Hello, Tess Ritchie, Statewide and Regional Planning at CDOT also.
Maxwell Hansen, Housing Director with UCOG.
Eric Stone, Teller County Commissioner.
Shane Ferguson, Region 2 Transportation Director, and go Boilers.
Rob Price, CDOT Environmental Planning.
John Hall, CDOT North Region Program Engineer.
We have a microphone back there. No.
Davis, CDOT Maintenance. That right? CDOT Maintenance. Very right. Back to work, bring more down.
Hey, that was everybody, I think, right? Well, welcome everybody. We do have some new folks here, and I think part of that is because of the letters that were sent out to invite some of the municipalities that haven't signed an MOU with TPR. So hopefully we'll get some new folks come into the meetings and have an input. Oh, there are people online. There's a lot online, huh? I don't know how we want to do that. It's kind of hard to do it online because the screen keeps changing. I mean, do you have 13 people online?
Yeah. Got the list right here.
All right, we're going to try to do online introductions real quick. Don't want to leave you guys out. So here, I can't hardly see it. If you'll just say the names and then let them introduce themselves. Thank you.
Danelle Miller.
Hey, Danelle Miller. I'm a transportation planner at PPACG, just listening in today.
Hannah Parsons.
Hi, Hannah Parsons, Transportation Commissioner, District 9.
We got Jared. He's back there. Jessica Bechtel.
Hi there, Jess Bechtel, PPACG Tip Planner.
Casey Dykes.
Casey Dykes, CDOT Region 2.
Kathy Lowry.
Kathy Lowry, Teller Senior Coalition Executive Director.
We have Scott Dodge.
Scott Dodge, Town of Fairplay Board of Trustees.
Scott Skinner.
Scott Skinner, Region 2 Transit Liaison.
And Victoria Chavez.
El Paso County Transportation Planning Manager.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody again. All right, we're going to get this thing rolling here. We'll start off with, well, the first thing on our agenda is legislative update and TPR boundary updates, and then we'll jump into the bylaws. So we'll start with the legislative updates if there's any. I don't know who that is. Kathleen? Yeah.
That's me, Kathleen Collins. So just to give some background for people who are new, the legislative update has to do with House Bill 231101. It required the regional planning commissions of transportation planning regions to add a transit representative on their commission. And then it also required, after extensive review of study of data, an analysis of TPR boundaries. And the study was submitted to the Transportation Commission in November last year. And there are recommendations from CDOT, both looking at the boundaries and also looking at TPR administration. And what's going on now is CDOT anticipates that the Transportation Commission will have not much controversy over the TPR administration comments. However, of course, the boundary recommendations are that Intermountain TPR be divided into 2 TPRs and Southeast and South Central TPR be joined. And there is much controversy over that. And right now, the schedule is for the Transportation Commission to make a decision on what they're going to move forward with related to that study in May. So I recommend folks who are interested to learn firsthand what's going on to attend and listen in on the Transportation Commission meeting. I believe that meeting is the workshop. I don't know if they'll have a workshop, but the discussion of adoption will occur on May 16th. So listen in on that. There's no new news about what the TC is thinking right now. I just know that that's the case. And I know that Commissioner Parsons is on the line. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That was a good overview. The only thing I would add is I was asked to be on the kind of rulemaking committee, and that all that did was we sat in on the public hearings. So we observed the public hearings. I was in all of that for public comment. And the one thing I would add as a caveat to what you mentioned is it does sound like there's some on the administrative function, there's some pushback on the term limit. So I just think if anybody, so just be very clear. I would say if you want to make a position on that, don't assume that everybody is in favor with that. I just heard that last week that there maybe are some regions, especially rural areas, pushing back on the term limits. So just for everybody to be clear on your position on that. And then no, I don't have, I agree with you. The meeting will be on the 16th. If you want to make public comments, that's a good time to do it as well. That's really all I know so far. But I'm open to any questions if anybody has any.
I'm stretching it a little bit to court.
I'm sorry.
What that was.
Well, what we can do next, if there are no questions for Commissioner Parsons, is Jared, our AV person, can bring up the bylaws that we have redlined. What we took is the bylaws that Central Front Range adopted on May 22nd back in 2017. We took the liberty of looking at them. And we coordinated with Commissioners McFall and Commissioner Elsner, as well as Samantha, on this. And so what we want to do is look at them today, get your feedback on red lines, and then at the July meeting, which is scheduled for July 8th, you guys can look at them then and discuss them for potential adoption. But right now, what we're going to do is look at the red lines, get your comments on them, and then I'll go through what we think the next steps are related to these bylaws. So once again, these were adopted back in May of 2017, and we added some red lines. And some of the red lines are more taken from a template that was part of the TPR study that was submitted to the Transportation Commission back in November. And some of them are just wordsmithing, but some of them are a little more substantial. So one of the things from the template was section 2, the area. We thought it would be good in the bylaws to go ahead and stipulate what counties are part of the TPR. And so that's what that text there under section to area covers. And if anybody has any concerns with that, let me know. But otherwise, I have Tess here taking notes on what we hear from folks related to adding that information.
Victoria's got a question.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you. Can someone send this out in email? I don't see it with attached to the appointment.
We will send it out later after we go through it, unless Jared could maybe send it out. I don't think he can right now, but I'll send it out immediately after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the Article 3 section, it pretty much looks like it mimicked a previous template of CDOT's. And a lot of the new language, if you scroll down a little bit further, there's new language from the template of the TPR study. There it is. If you scroll up a tiny bit, you can see the heading, which is the purpose. And a lot of what's mentioned above in paragraph form is what's stipulated here, but it also has more far-reaching emphasis on who the RPC coordinates with, who they collaborate with, and those are the kinds of extra things that are added here in the text for the purpose of the RPC. If you could scroll down a little bit further, Jared, to also capture some of the studies. That language was already in up above, but like I was mentioning, mainly it's how they collaborate, coordinate, and then also how information, the RPC oversees information exchange between all the agencies that get involved in transportation planning, along with the communities within the Central Front Range TPR. Are there any questions or concerns with that particular text being added at this point? It's just extending the purpose of the RPC.
So I will tell those of you that haven't seen this yet, and when you get a chance, look at it. If you have any concerns or anything, let me know. We did go over this, Commissioner Elsner and I went with CDOT, and we discussed a lot of this. Some of it does, as Kathleen explained, just kind of define stuff a little better. And it did add some stuff and that the Transportation Planning Commission had kind of recommended to put in there. It's not changing our bylaws a whole lot from what they were, though. We were pretty close to the way it was to start with. So I kept looking for the, what do you call it? The bad bullet that was going to hurt us somewhere, and there's not one that I could find. So we had some skepticism about that kind of going into it, but just so everybody knows that.
Okay. Thanks, Commissioner McFall. And then Article 4, the membership, here's the crux of what we need to change, because we need to add a transit rep. So, and we also figured it makes sense in the bylaws to include all the entity communities that are participants now. And so it stipulates that there'll be, a representative from CDOT, which is our Regional Transportation Director, Shane Ferguson. He'll be a voting member. We'll have a transit agency rep, and then representatives from the cities, counties, and towns that joined the TPR. And if you scroll down a little further, initially in this document, it had a list of all the potential communities that could join the IGA. Oh, just to make the point, the governing documents of a TPR are the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement, and then the bylaws. And CDOT is recommending Central Front Range to take care of complying with House Bill 231101. We're just modifying the bylaws. The IGA looks fine to us. And all you need to do is solicit more signatures to the existing IGA, but that the bylaws can take care of the other refinements that are needed. And what we also did here is we took off the list the communities that aren't current members of the TPR through the IGA. And we encouraged Commissioner McFall and Samantha to reach out to those communities, along with Commissioner Elsner, to see if they wanted to join and sign on. And maybe some have already. What's the status of that?
Do you have anybody that has signed on?
Well, Fremont County Transit is here today for his first meeting to kind of join up with the transit. Samantha was out of the office for about 3 weeks, I think. And I'm not sure, Max, if you got those letters out or not. to those? Okay. We've also been spreading the word though, word of mouth at other meetings to some of these other Silver Cliff, Rockville, Coal Creek's here today. And so the word's getting out there, but we'll make sure that the letters get out now that Samantha's back to work.
Yeah, and I've got a question on this. My thing is, I don't like crossing people off because that means if we add them, theoretically, we would have to do a bylaws amendment. Can we list, which potentially include and then have everybody listed and then say that, to be a member, they have to sign the IGA? Because, I mean, Alma, I'm trying to get them to actually do something, which almost sometimes is kind of interesting. But anyway, I would like to say that Alma is going to be a part of it, but if you cross it off and then they join, then we'd have to amend the bylaws to put them in.
Right. What had happened is our subject matter expert, Michael Snow, had thought it was best to cross them off, but I can see your point and I can go over that and we can take those strikes off and just recognize, just look at the IGA to see who the members are, and then you're covered and you don't have to amend the bylaws again because of communities joining in. Okay.
Good suggestion. Thanks.
I just thought of it.
Wow. On the fly.
On the fly.
And also, part of this is, we're going to share this with you today, but we do intend to send all this out, give people an opportunity to look at it. And then when they come to the July meeting, they'll be prepared, or they may have already commented with us before the meeting so that we can amend it. So we encourage folks to look at it and comment now, and then we can refine it so that it's as close as possible when we meet on July 8th. So, Jared, can you scroll down a little bit further? There we go. Oops. Back up a little bit. Sorry how the scrolling can go kind of fast. Okay, there we go. So, so we are going to add a transit rep, and then there's some more refining text that's more wordsmithing just to be more concise with how you say something about voting and non-voting entities. But it pretty much follows the original bylaws that were adopted back in 2017. So you can scroll down a little further, Jared. Any questions on that? It seems like that's pretty straightforward.
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just actually, I was saying there's language right after this that they might scroll down to get to that actually reflects what Commissioner Elsner said, which was that people who are, the organizations which are signatory to the IGA, shall have status. So I think that just reinforces your recommendation.
And I think one thing to mention here too is we had discussed, and it says it in here somewhere, is the transportation organizations. There may be two in Park, one in Teller, one in Fremont, one in Custer, but they're going to be one voice. So the transportation, they're going to have to figure out who's going to speak for the transportation, I guess is how to put it, amongst the transportation entities. If that makes sense.
Right, and there is some language here that indicates that the intent is that the transit agencies come together and figure out what process they want to use to select their representative. So let's scroll down a little bit further for the representation text. There we go. So you'll see that there's the red lines that came from the templates from the study, and then also our subject matter expert refined the text a bit more just to be more clear and succinct. But it's all about how the representation, there'll be one representative or designated alternate, respectively, from each county, municipality, a transit agency representative representing all the transit interests. And then there'll be the municipalities may appoint representation at their discretion and from their governing bodies and so forth. It also stipulates that here that RTD Shane Ferguson will be the a member that is a voting member. Whoops. Okay. And then it also, number 3 talks about how voting members are really determined by the RPC itself, and the same for non-voting members. So that's what's stipulated here, but we'll want people to look at this in more detail. And then more information is provided in the blue text about non-voting advisory members. So staff like myself and other people here at the table, we would be advisory members, whereas Shane Ferguson, RTD for Region 2, would be a voting member. And then other agency reps would be also non-voting members who advise Central Front Range Regional Planning Commission. Now, Section 3 is the term of membership, and I believe they just talk about each member having a full term there, and that text CDOT staff didn't have any comments on. Same for Section 4 with absenteeism, that language stayed the same. Same with vacancies and appointments. Public participation. Now, here's an interesting one. The one red line there. The bylaws didn't seem to reference a vice chair. However, Commissioner Elsner today did introduce himself as vice chair, and I've always considered him that as well. But I don't think the bylaws covered that, and I think
It's his fault.
so I think we definitely ought to include that. Because that's more accurate.
It's up on the authority of the chair. You are vice chair. No, actually, he was voted in as vice chair, but you're right. It didn't cover that.
Okay. And then there is some text about the selection of officers that was taken from the template that was provided previously. And then some cleanup text. Just talking about nominees shall be presented to the membership for election at the first regularly scheduled meeting of each calendar year. We're recommending you do it in your January meeting, but you know, that's something you guys, it's up to you to decide how you want to do that. And then the election shall be by a raise of hands or by ballot. If requested by a voting member, the ballot wouldn't be automatic, but if you want to change that text, you could. And also down the line here in this document is a conversation about adding electronic voting that wasn't incorporated in here. But the term of office you guys already have is 1 year. And so we left that the same. So Section 4, vacancies and appointments, we didn't have a whole lot of comments on. We left that the same. Same for removal and resignations. You already have good language. I think when CDOT reached out to TPRs back in 2017, we gave them a template then, and you used it because even the template that's in the study now is pretty similar. So same for Section 6, absenteeism is pretty much the same. Duties of the chairperson is also remaining the same. Also, the stack representative responsibilities, I think that follows, there it is, duties of the stack, which is Commissioner Elsner. And then duties of the alternate stack representative is outlined, and there weren't many changes to that. Now, when we come to public meeting, there were a couple changes. If you could scroll down a little bit more under public meeting.
Let's pause for just a second. Victoria, whoops, she put her hand down.
Oh, go ahead, Victoria.
You're too far gone. I'll comment later.
Oh, you can go ahead and ask. And we can take note of your comment right now.
Well, I wasn't sure on the term limit. Like, we have never enforced that term limit. We had Adam Lancaster as our chair for probably 10 years.
So it's basically a 1-year term. You can be reelected each term is the way I read it. There's not really a term limit. You're right. Adam was here for a long time.
So every year he can be added in, and there's no noted number of times he can serve in that capacity.
Right.
Okay, I'll take a look at that when I get a hold of it. Thank you.
Okay. So related to the
I'm
public.
sorry, this is Hannah. I want to interrupt really quick. This is one
Sure.
topic, just want to point it out that I could use some clarity on which direction this the groups would like to go, because this is one that is likely to be discussed at the commission level. So just if at the culmination of this, whenever you're ready, I would love to know your thoughts on the term limits.
Can you scroll back to that term limit, please? For the terms. A term of 1 year, meaning that every year we will have an election, but it does not say that there's a certain term limits that you can have.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, it does say specifically that they may be reelected without term limits.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, the last sentence. Yep.
Is there anything else?
Thank you. It went by so quick I couldn't read it.
Thanks, Victoria.
Okay, so I think we can go to the public meetings if there's no other comments from anybody on the term limit. Thanks for calling that out, because that's important to make sure everybody understands it. So in addition to the public meeting text of your bylaws, the text was added that the TPR is going to have a website and that public meeting information will be posted to that website. I know Samantha is working on developing a website for the TPR under their Upper Arkansas Area COG website. So we really appreciate that. And then the other piece is that, before a meeting, the information and packet materials will be posted by a certain time, and that the notes after the meeting will also be made publicly available. So the bylaws now stipulate that in more detail that wasn't there before.
Yeah, we need to thank Samantha a little more than that. She's done a great job doing that. And then also these meetings being virtual like this gives her an advantage to help with the minutes and stuff. So thanks for the work that you've done on all of that. Thank you.
Yes, we were very pleased to have Samantha back today. So for regular and special meetings, there's just wordsmithing text added to that. So I don't think there's anything too substantial related to that. Under section 3 voting, we do add the word electronic just to give the flexibility to the Central Front Range TPR on how voting can occur. And then we noticed that a quorum, you have identified 3 voting members of the RPC representing a quorum. And so that is not changed with our edits there. It's just more wordsmithing type language. Any questions on the quorum or on the voting?
I'm sorry, I do have a question on the voting. So does that mean that you cannot vote via when you're sitting on a Teams? Is that an electronic vote?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's no proxy or electronic vote shall be allowed. Don't we want to allow electronic voting?
It says unless a prior arrangement has been made. So that might be up to the TPR to discuss. Maybe you don't need a prior arrangement to have an electronic vote, but right now it stipulates that if you're going to do an electronic vote or a proxy, you will need to reach out to Samantha or Commissioner Hall, McFall, or Commissioner Elsner.
Yeah, we
set that.
may need to look at that wording because if we're going to offer a virtual meeting, I know everybody can't make it all of the time, so we may want to alter that language just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. So thank you, Victoria, for pointing that out.
I would really appreciate, I love the virtual meetings, so I would really love to have it be simple and easy.
We're going to do away with them, so you have to come see us, Victoria. No, I agree. We will. If you have a suggestion on that language, please send it, and then we'll also.
Mr. Chair,
jot that down. Yes, sir.
just a question on that. And personally, I don't view anybody who's either online by phone or online, remotely through Teams or Zoom or whatever we're doing this on today, as being an electronic vote. I think electronic vote would be a an electronic poll, which is placed up on the screen, maybe somewhere like what we do at CCI, with voting there. So I guess as we look at it, we probably need to define what electronic vote
Right.
is. Because if the vote is verbal being transmitted across digital means, does that make it electronic, or does that make it, a voice vote? I would say the latter more likely.
Yeah, and that's why we need to clarify it for when we're not here, everybody else understands it too, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's what our intention was here, was that it was a remote vote, but we may want to word it differently. And then also, like you say, define electronic if we're going to add it in versus saying voting remotely. So Tess is making a note of that now. And then any questions on the quorum about recognizing 3 voting members? Okay, so I guess we can move on. So the other text related to subcommittees, selection and their responsibilities, there was no major change to the text of the existing bylaws. So you can scroll down a little bit more on that. Okay, then the new red lines that we added identifies that there's going to be a third-party vendor supporting the agency by way of memorandum of agreement. So we have a memorandum of agreement that Samantha is the TPR administrator through the Upper Arkansas Area COG. And that part of her responsibilities, it stipulates that she'll take minutes of meetings, maintain a current membership list containing the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of CFR RPC members and all known parties interested in transportation planning and all other official documents at the Central Front Range RPC. So that's language has been added. There wasn't any language related to that. And then identifying who the vendor is, which is the Upper Arkansas Area COG. So that's the text changes there, adding administrative duties under Article 9. Are there any comments on that change?
My comment on that is not really the change, but that's why it's important to make sure you have your emails down when you attend these on the sign up list, or those of you online. You're obviously online because you got an email, hopefully. But if you know someone else that's interested in the TPR of those municipalities that were mentioned that aren't here today, and if you know them, mention it to them and give them an email address to contact somebody, or that we can have it on the list so that we can have a current list there for a while. And CDOT's really bad about it, as you guys know, it changes all the time. Just about the time you get to meet somebody, then they drop off. So if CDOT could do the same thing with the current one, hopefully it doesn't change very often, but yeah, now, but tomorrow you might not. So
I keep it updated, I promise.
Well, I maintain the TPR administrator list, and that fluctuates quite a bit
Quite a
too.
bit, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I don't mean any bad
It's
by it.
hard.
It's just the way it works.
It's all to maintain these contact lists. So yes, I totally get Samantha's trials and tribulations of maintaining such a list. So the amendment of bylaws, the only text change there was that it stipulated the Upper Arkansas Area COG, and we thought it was better just to leave it more vague and just highlight the vendor, the RPC vendor, versus saying it's Upper Arkansas here, we do it up above and it's taken care of. So that was our thoughts for amendment of bylaws, that they can help it make recommendations for amendment of the bylaws as part of the team, and other team members are outlined in that paragraph. So are there any comments on Article 10? Okay, so that is actually the end of those bylaws. But once again, we'll be sending these out to everybody very shortly, later today, if not within the hour. And the idea is also, I don't know if now would be a good time to talk, see if any of the transit reps present have any initial thoughts on how they would want to go about selecting their transit rep, or if we want to cover that later. I don't know what your thoughts are, Commissioner.
Well, since you put it out there, we can ask if anybody's got an idea right now. If not, think about it for the next meeting so that we know how that you're going to choose your voter. I guess it's going to speak for the entities. And then if everybody could look over those bylaws, if you have any other suggestions or changes or need clarifications. Scott Dodge, go ahead, sir.
Commissioner McFall, hey, just wanted to bring up the voting member. I think it was under section 3 towards the top. We discussed slightly at the town of Fairplay as to whether or not we could designate even a private person, considering myself in the future here after next Monday's meeting as still being a part of this group. So if that was something that the mayor and board of trustees wanted to designate a private person to be a part of, could that be part of this organization still?
Looking for that section on these. I printed it and it's so small. Is it back up there?
It's under A number 1. One representative, a designated alternate respectively of each county municipality. And then I think it goes down to say municipality may appoint representation at their discretion from their governing bodies or from staff. So to maybe include a private individual.
Yeah, it doesn't say that, but I don't know why that keeps an entity from appointing whoever they want on there. I don't know that we specifically need to put out anything else on there. It's up to that entity if they feel confident of you being the representative, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if you look
We
at,
could remove from their governing bodies or from staff.
And just leave their yeah.
yeah, because if you look at the first one is one representative or alternate respective from each county, and it
Right.
doesn't go into any other details other than
And
the
that's
county
fine.
gets to choose
Yeah.
who they would like to have here.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best bet.
Thank you for your consideration on that. I'd like to continue with this TPR if I can, if I can get an appointment on that.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think the next steps are between now and the July meeting, we will send this out. We will work to get other IGA signatures on the intergovernmental agreement from the communities that don't have a signature on file yet. Then we will reach out to the transit agencies that serve the Central Front Range TPR and find out what process they want to use in preparation for the July meeting. And then we will, I would think, at the July meeting, we will adopt the bylaws if they're good enough shape for everyone to agree upon. And then after they're adopted, since that allows the transit rep to be a voting member, then we would select the transit rep at the July meeting. At least that's the thoughts from CDOT. And if Commissioner McFall and Commissioner Elsner agree, that's what we're thinking.
I think that all sounds great. Yep.
Okay. And I want to put a plug in for the eclipse. It starts at 11:28.
Got my glasses right here. I'm ready.
65% coverage. And if we have a good time to break the meeting at that time, if it's not finished, that would be great to go outside and see if the weather allows us to see the eclipse. So that's all for me right now. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we'll get these red lines out to you all.
Yeah, and I just want to add, if anybody sees him driving with those on, please stop him.
Victoria Chavez had a question in the chat. She said, where is the term limit that is of concern?
There is no term limit.
There is no term limit, Victoria. It says that there'll be 1-year terms of elected, which means you could be voted in every year, but it's under the section.
Yeah, the last sentence of the term limit clarifies that there is no term limit, that you can be elected consecutive years without concern about a term limit.
I just wanted to make sure that we gave Commissioner Parsons the opportunity to hear any concerns about it, but I didn't see where the concern was. So wanted to make sure she had her opportunity to get input.
Yeah, to clarify, I think the recommendations from the staff were to enforce term limits, and the stack endorsed that recommendation, but it sounds like you would prefer to not have term limits. That's what I'm taking away here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I think I have what I need.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
All right. Anything before we move away from the bylaws that anybody has any comments, questions? Okay, moving on. We'll move to CDOT project updates. We didn't have a stack meeting. Let me mention, we didn't have a stack meeting in April, so we don't have a stack update. Okay. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. So will you post the memo? In mind? Well, that's coming up. I'll just say we have 5 active projects within Central Front Range. Of those 5 projects, that's the local agency list. There should be a CDOT memo. Different CDOT memo. There we go. Perfect. All 5 of our active projects are anticipated for completion this year, 2024. So that's exciting. That will hopefully be have a lot of opened up and new project areas. The first project on there, 9 and 285, the intersection improvements bridge replacement. It's basically coming off winter free time. We did get the deck poured on that bridge just in the last few weeks, so it's a good milestone to start to get the traffic switched over here in the coming months, and then work on phase 2 on that bridge, which is really the kind of the biggest hang up in terms of phasing. So yeah, unless there's any questions on that one, I'll just keep moving on. 115 also kind of coming out of winter free time. That project's just going to continue with all the widening and bridge work, and again, expected completion in the fall. A large overlay project coming out just on the east side of Salida all the way through Coaldale. So that was successfully awarded and should begin work here in May. It's about $20 million worth of bridge and resurfacing work and guardrail work. Those are the 3 major scope elements. 115 and 50, a roundabout there at that interchange, is already actually kicked into construction, that project. So
Just for the record, I still don't like that project. Just had to say it. Yeah, probably. People are already blaming me for it, trust me. But I don't like it. So anyway, sorry, John.
There is a lot of interest in roundabouts and in the future, potentially in certainly in the PPACG area.
I think it looks like that project, from what I see of it, if it's done correctly, it will be fine. And definitely something needs to happen there, because I've seen the traffic back up on 50, so it does become a hazard. But
it's important to, I think if there's 2 things I can just ask people when it comes to roundabouts is, you really just have to look left, and then you just need to drive politely in a roundabout. It's meant to just have everybody drive politely. Don't, if you're in the roundabout, you don't need to stop for somebody, but you'd also don't need to cut them off intentionally. If everybody just drives them calmly and looks left before they enter, it's a pretty good. I did have one person ask me, once I'm in the roundabout, how do I get out of it?
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the most challenging part. But, but it goes to show you that there are some communications that we, and certainly our team has, again, is looking at roundabouts at some other locations too. I know our traffic is, and I think educating the public on them is something we're looking at, trying to find ways to do.
I think you're overestimating the ability of people to drive politely.
To look, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's if you've been on any of the roads, that polite is not the term I would use right now.
I better not beat this to death. We'll keep going.
Yeah. Next.
I don't know. People are polite. I find people to be much more polite than you, Commissioner, I guess. All right. The 24, the resurfacing also Woodman, Woodman through Peyton, east of Woodman through Peyton. That project is also successfully awarded. Actually, we are working on award, but it is in the process of being successfully awarded and should begin construction in June as well. So it's exciting. That one, we weren't anticipating we would have all the funding to necessarily get that advertised this year. So it's really great that we did and had a very successful under budget award on that project as well. Two other projects worth mentioning on the list here, just that are very near completion: the R2B2 and the Kenosha Pass and Hoosier Pass, the first chain up station project. So we're still just looking for that final lighting control elements on the chain ups, and then the R2B2 just has some final paving at the bridge structure, particularly east of Hartselle.
Are you waiting for a poll on the Kenosha one?
I believe there is. Yes, there.
Okay.
I'm oversimplifying and saying it's the lighting control only, but that's what's really hanging up getting out there, is getting the lighting control. I mean, there's a little bit of conduit work. There's some connective stuff, pole and stuff that you're discussing, Commissioner. But and just I mean, that lighting control center is there's only 2 manufacturers in the United States, and of course, it has to be built in the United States to meet our specifications. So that's the hang up on that. All right, moving on to the next page of the memo, just other projects of interest. The US 50 west of Canyon City 8 Mile Hill project. We are working on we have submitted for a $25 million raise grant on that, and we're highly optimistic for success that will help us get that project under construction in 2026. That's safety improvements, mostly focused on median barrier on US 50 there. And then the 67 D Woodland Park project, some widening just north of Highway 24. Again, we were unsuccessful in awarding that. Bids came in much higher than anticipated in budget, but we are making plans to get that re-advertised this fall, hopefully in a really optimal window, and get under construction. For longer term projects, I won't necessarily go through, well, I'll read through all of them just to make sure I hit on them, but US 24 west of Woodland Park, the resurfacing project from where we ended this past year, and then going west, hopefully to the area around Lake George, depending on funding. So that project is in design, and I will be pushing to utilize and maybe tweak some of the 10-year capital rural paving funding to try to advance it. So more to come on that, but you guys, this group would certainly, I would anticipate hearing some of those considerations or recommendations that we have to try to maximize this project next year for 2025. And then Highway US 285D near Bailey is another project. Same thing. There could be some attempts, there will be some attempts to just make sure we can utilize the rural paving funding and some resurfacing funding, and even $1 million the RPP that's on the list here of approved funding in 27 to make sure that project also gets successfully built in 2025. Basically Bailey to the Jefferson County line. The other projects just for longer term out, the next ones are 26 or later. So 24 East, Peyton through Calhan resurfacing in a passing lane, 24 Judge Orr, 69 A Hillside Creek, so basically south of Texas Creek resurfacing. That's a project that has been on the shelf for a little while, and 115 safety and canyon safety shoulder widening and resurfacing, basically from 115 from Canyon City there 50, and then east through town and then back to 50. I will gladly take any questions.
Sure. Go ahead, Eric.
On that, the US 24 west, where it says Hartselle to divide, but then I'm assuming that the section of the prior project that roughly went to Edlow Road this past construction season, Is that the combining of the two that you're talking about?
Well, let me be very clear, where I mentioned the Hartsel to divide, so there's the 10-year ID number.
Right,
And so that has a very wide swath.
right.
But
It's,
what we're looking to do is basically that boundary just west of Woodland Park. And we're looking to go as far
Far
west
west
as we
go.
can
Okay.
and consolidate those funds. Hopefully, that's going to be the request, is to kind of consolidate those funds and try to make use of them fully sooner.
Right. Thank you.
John, just a quick question. What's it looking like with bids being awarded versus a price versus what last year some of the bids were? A good example might be from Coaldale West, that resurfacing, because they resurfaced east of that last year. You have any comparison of that? I know it's off the top of your head probably, but
Well, I can tell you that one was just about borderline. It had a relatively high bids. It was over budget. We did fund that. A lot of the structure work was actually the more expensive aspects of that project, and certainly the guardrail on that project. So that was about at the limits, but the award we just got, or we're working on that 24 east of town. Now, granted, that's less rural, less mountainous. It's a lot easier location here around Peyton. But that came in really well. We got $105 a ton asphalt price, which in the current market conditions is pretty good, came in under budget. So we're optimistic. I mean, that gives us some optimism, and but it's certainly less expensive as you get closer. It contains prices as you get closer to the city, and the rural areas are certainly still seeing a little bit of a increased price escalation. It seems more than just you would typically have years past.
yeah, I think even our local aggregate and everything is up, obviously, from before too. So I just wondered, thank you. Any other questions or comments for John on these projects? Okay, hearing none. Oh,
Just real quick, I just want to remind everybody, April is Work Zone Awareness and Safety Month. Since our projects are starting to begin in earnest this month, just please be aware as you drive through the work zones. We're going to have a Remembrance Day for CDOT within Region 2 Wednesday of this week, and just want to kind of highlight that just a little bit before we move on. Thank you.
What'd you call it, Jane? April
Work Zone Awareness.
Work Zone Awareness. Yeah. Thanks. They're aware. They just need to slow down a little too, right? Okay. Anything else before we move on? All right, we'll go to local agency project updates. We'll start over here with Leo, Canyon City.
Thank you. Starting at the top of the local agency list, we have project 20574. That is the pedestrian improvements along US 50 in town. Work is underway on that. We are on track to be done with a majority of the construction at the end of this month, and then hope to wrap up all the finishing touches there before Memorial Day. Little way down the list, 23815 is lighting upgrades along US 50. We did sign an agreement with Black Hills Energy for the installation of those, and are working through the CDOT environmental process to get that project moved into construction. 24540 is a Safe Routes to School project along 9th Street. We did receive our OL just last week, I believe. So we're working on getting that advertised in the near future. 24573 is rehab on 4 Mile Lane Bridge. We do not have much to update on that. Still working on getting a design package together for CDOT to review. 25195 is the multimodal master plan. We did just finish a draft of the plan, and that's being presented to our council at their April 17th meeting. So that'll be going out on agenda here shortly for a draft. And on the second page, 25267 is a Canyon City bump out project. It's a revitalizing Main Street grant project. We did just finish our, I forget what you guys call it here, a roper set of plans. So we're working through our environmental process with CDOT on that, and hoping to get that one built later this fall, over the winter, and probably just a touch into spring. And then the last project on the list, 25893, is a 2026 Transportation Alternative Program project. We have not started design or any work on that yet.
Thanks. Michelle, we'll get to your stuff too in just a second. As we come around, we'll just stop at you. Fremont County, we've been working for about 4 years on Grandview Bridge. Finally got that bid awarded. It was $1.3 million over budget. We did get some more grant money and had to come up with a little over $300,000, which we did. So that project should move ahead because I know that was one, John, I mentioned a minute ago. I think the price went up about $1 million since we started working on this. So Canyon City's got a hand in that too because they got a water line going across it. There's a lot involved, a lot of utilities going across it too. But I think they're going to start moving forward pretty quickly, hopefully. Other than that, that's really about it. And we have a roundabout going at 115. We heard. I will not let it die. I just hope it works. I'll eat crow one of these days if it works right, but that's okay. I do have a mention. I know Chad's here from maintenance. Just real quick, before we get to Chad, noticed on 115 through Penrose where that cement is, where it always breaks down where there's water. There's some big holes coming out in there, and then thanks for jumping on the frontage road there in Canyon City where it put holes. I don't know if CDOT did it or Canyon did, but they're in front of Walgreens, man. Those, after that 3-foot snow we had, there were huge holes just automatically came out in that, and that road's used quite a bit. Getting that fixed, and hopefully they'll get some resurface on that like the rest of it from last year. Thank you. Elsner.
Thank you. In Park County, we really just have two. One is a Fairplay River Walk and Park and Trail, and I don't know if Scott has any further update other than they're supposed to advertise that or have just recently advertised it. And then we also have our bike path, which is going from Alma to Fairplay or Fairplay to Alma, depending upon which direction you want to go. And it's basically the design, and we're getting ready for the preliminary design of it. It's more than just a bike path. It will also be an emergency road in case we have problems up there. So that's why it's a little more expensive than just a bike path. That's all I got.
Michelle, you want to go ahead? You ready?
Yes, I can cover the ones that haven't been covered as of yet. West Cliff improvements, they're looking to go to construction this summer. Gold Belt Shelf Road Trail planning, that's a mouthful, in design. Callahan sidewalk improvements was awarded more funding for additional ADA ramps and is in design. Custer County sidewalk improvements, they're almost at FIR stage in design. Cripple Creek City Park is also almost at FIR stage in design. And I think that completes the list. So these are the current infrastructure local agency projects. This doesn't include transit. And then we also, I'm gonna have Jeff help me out and talk about MMO funding that's coming up and going to be available to the TPR.
Jeff's looking at me like he wants to say something.
Actually,
Okay, Eric, no, go ahead, Jeff.
does Commissioner Stone want to say
He
anything?
does, but go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
I brought a visual aid to help everybody to hand out, but it's the same information included in your packet on the sheet that is the MMOF projected regional funding as of February 2024, if everybody can see it. But I'm passing that down. The information on the sheet that's being passed around is just the exact same information you're looking at on this as pertaining to Central Front Range. Just hoping to make it easier for everybody to read. Going from left to right across here, you can see that your TPR is allocated 1.95% of the total statewide MMOF amount. Furthermore, I've included the projected fiscal year 24 through 27 dollar amounts, and that's the entire Central Front Range TPR in each of those years. Excuse me. The total you can see on the right is just over 1.1 million. And in talking through this, Lachelle and I, to boil it down to a nutshell for everybody, we determined that we would like to recommend as staff that the TPR run a call for projects for these 4 fiscal years of MMOF funding. We can access the 24 funding and the 25 funding right now as we speak. Starting July 1st with the new fiscal year, we can then start accessing the 26 funding and then likewise in 26 for 27, if that helps with everybody's planning purposes. I believe at the upcoming April, please correct me if I'm wrong, Kathleen, but I believe at the upcoming April Transportation Commission, we will hear the final program distribution amounts. If it's not at the April meeting, it'll be at the May meeting. With those final amounts, we can make any adjustments to these as necessary. These are the best projections from headquarters. But again, it's safe to say that staff does recommend that the TPR does an actual call for projects that we can help with the application process, reviewing, so on and so forth, similar to the TAP process. And if the TPR so desires, then we can move forward with putting all of that together to come back at the July meeting, if the TPR is comfortable with that time frame to start the call, if that makes sense. And then we could have, if the TPR would like to do it sooner, that's fine. It's completely up to the Central Front Range members. Either way, we would like to do this through the summer, I believe, to be able to advertise this potentially spring, if not sooner. That is all I have to say about that, unless anybody has any questions about any of these amounts or the MMOF program in general.
No questions. What's the thoughts on putting out a call for projects? Anybody have any objection to that?
No objection, Mr. Chair, but what kind of window do you think we'd be looking at, Jeff, for those applications?
Thanks. Of course, I took a drink of water right then. We would like to give plenty of time for the back and forth review for application development to hopefully prevent any and all fatal flaws, and also give the applicants a great idea of the environmental clearances required, and potentially even be able to build consultant fees for those kind of things into their request. So as far as the timeline, I think it's safe to say at least a 2-month application development timeline before any kind of final due date. So to further answer your question, I would like to give a minimum 3 weeks, I would say, for the application committee from the TPR to review all of these to do the scoring. So 3 months, Commissioner?
Any other questions, concerns about putting out a call for question or projects? Any objections to doing so? Nope. Hearing none, then we'll put out call for projects for MMOF funds. Or project.
Thanks for that, and we will work very closely with Samantha from this point forward.
Commissioner Stone, any local stuff? It's right here.
Everybody keeps looking at me and my light's not on, so, no, but actually, before we move off CDOT, I did want to make one comment, which is, for the maintenance guys, tremendous thanks for all the work that everyone did during that last major storm. Pretty unprecedented with the amount of snow and the rate at which it fell. And I was out a couple of times with our county folks to when we worked on our own roads, and the condition of the state highways and the highways that you guys were responsible for, considering how difficult the storm was. I don't believe those roads ever closed for anything other than an accident. It was yeoman's work to keep them open, and just congratulations and thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that was tough. I mean, we all had folks that were stranded either at home or on the road or different places. So it was a pretty big effort by everybody involved. You guys with those higher elevations had more trouble than we did, but we had plenty. So do you have any other local things that you needed to discuss? Does anybody from transit or anybody back there wish to bring anything up? I think hopefully that microphone works, if you'll come up to that. And then we'll get to you in a second, Scott.
Hi, I'm Diana from Teller Senior Coalition, and we also go by the name of TSC Transit. We provide transportation in Teller County, Eastern Park County, and Western El Paso County for anyone 18 plus years of age, so it's not just for our seniors. But we received MMOF funding, and we started a deviated bus route so that we provide transportation door to door. We pick up people at their homes, take them into Woodland Park, get all of their errands done, grocery shopping and so forth. So that has gone really well with the MMOF funding. We also received funding for a transit van, and we're hoping in April that we will receive that. We're still waiting on that. And then also MMOF funding for a bus shelter planning grant, and we're still waiting to hear on that one. And as you know, we really needed that last month. Our vehicles were buried. So hopefully we'll get started on that soon. Thank you.
Right, thanks. Anybody else from, excuse me, transit? Nope. Okay, moving on. Oh, Scott Dodge. Sorry, Scott. Already, how quickly I forgot about him. Sorry,
Oh,
Scott.
no worries. Nothing going on up in Fairplay. We met with Jason Nelson and Adam Lancaster with at the town of Fairplay with Janelle Shaka and Mayor Frank Just about a month ago. And we were able to go through several maintenance related things. And I just want to just bring it up again since Mike Davis is on this meeting, and just want to just mention a few of the potholes you guys are seeing out there north of Alma, close to that chain up station. The new chain up station are getting pretty deep. And then also the shoulders, again, backfilling the shoulders that are, have some pretty major drop offs on the edge of Highway 9. If you guys can just kind of focus in on that this year, it would be awesome to be able to try to get those taken care of. In the town of Fairplay, our bridge project is going pretty well. As was mentioned, they just finished the decking on the north side of the bridge, and soon they'll be switching over to the south side. So that's going really well. Our relationship with the contractor is excellent. Communication has been excellent. We just met with them last Monday night and they gave us an update. They said they're a little bit behind, which we understand, but it sounds like they want to try to get everything switched over before Memorial Weekend, which would be awesome for us. So just want to also put on the radar for long-term, and hopefully it's short-term and not long-term, is the resurfacing of Highway 9 Main Street through the town of Fairplay. It is horrible right now. And I don't think it's going to get any better. If there's some short-term patches or fixes we could do to kind of take care of some potholes and things, we would love to have some of that done. But it's getting really rough. And Mike, I know you know it because you drive it every day, but any help you can give us would be awesome. I don't have confirmation yet as to whether or not phase 2 of the River Park has gone out for bid. Checking with Janelle Shaka on that. Actually, she said no. She just texted back. No, it has not gone out yet. She's trying to get that done this week. So that has not gone out to bid yet. The only other thing I had was, and maybe this is something in a later section of the meeting, if there's ever a major hauling or major trucking application that's out there, should that not be referred to this group for consideration and deliberation on if it affects our highways and our system and our TPR?
What are you referring to, Scott? This is Dick.
If there was ever any application for any like major hauling, any new gravel operations or any new mining operations in the area that's hauling aggregate through our county or through our TPR, shouldn't that referral go to this TPR as well, since it's affecting these roads?
Well, most of the hauling you see are, it's private contractors or just a company that's selling gravel somewhere, and we really don't have anything over that. They have the use of the highways just like everybody else has. So we really have no control. Now, when they start working on Montgomery Reservoir, I'm sure there'll be some issues because there'll be a lot bigger hauling when they start expanding the reservoir. But right now, I don't think we have any control over any of that.
Okay, I was just kind of wondering if we had any pull or say on that as a group.
Well, no, I'll just add something. So the trigger, this is Jason with CDOT, the trigger would be an access permit, right? So you're talking about the reservoir, they're going to expand operations.
Right.
So we'll work with the county and get an access permit. We can look for improvements and kind of talk about that hauling. But every highway is a truck route, right? So there's some challenges with that, but through the permitting process, at least access, we can at least inform and kind of work together.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, Scott, I think new stuff like that can be handled with access. I think where we would have no control. I-70 is closed for some reason and it pushes traffic down there on every one of them roads. You can't stop them from doing that. Like you say, it's a truck route. So that's kind of I get what you're saying, but I don't know how you could ever do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else before we move on? Okay, a maintenance update. I don't know. Was that Chad?
There we go. Here we go. Like, just kind of give you a quick update. Right now at this time for tonight in the basically central front range, we are putting our people on snow shift. We are expecting just a little snowstorm starting tomorrow. To answer your question, we are planning on doing some pothole patching within the Park County area, especially on 9. We do know that section from Alma, especially from Alma North up to the new chain up stations in bad condition. We're looking at doing a paving project after July 1st. That's in maintenance, so only. So it'll be kind of limited to how far we go. For the frontage road in Canyon City, we also have a plan to finish doing some more machine overlaying this summer after July 1st. For highway preservation, like I said, starting basically tomorrow after the storm, pothole patching's number 1 priority. Number 2 priority is getting all of our guardrail up to date, get it fixed. Due to all the snow we've received, we've seen an increase in accidents and we have a lot of guardrail damaged. So, and the other one you had question on, Highway 115, they will be patching that this week. We're working with in-house our surface treatment program, which is under Jody Piper, to identify some money to do some slab raising. We've contacted CST, one of our main contractors that does that, to come down and kind of do some foam jacking on some of those panels to help level them back out. Since it's nothing future to get that fixed. And then we will also be doing some machine overlaying on Highway 67 this summer after July from Evergreen to 24, just to help hold that together until the project comes through. But other than that, I mean, just normal highway maintenance. We're finishing up doing all of our fence. We started doing our weed spray also, kind of get ahead of we know with all this moisture we've been getting, we're going to see an increase in weeds. So we're getting caught up with that. We work with Brittany and Fremont County to help us out. Also, we contract her out. So we're also doing a lot of doing our joint crack sealing. So
Anybody have any questions? Comments? Thanks, sir.
Yep.
The never-ending job of patching roads, right? Okay, moving on. HQ updates. And we see that. Who's that?
Hello, that's me, Kathleen.
Okay.
I want to first announce that we have some new staff members in the multimodal planning branch. We have Tess Ritchie, who's joined us as a planning liaison. And we also have another staff member who's a communications specialist. Her name is Sifa Marthalato, and she is helping us make products accessible for our website. That's her primary role. So we're happy to have that staff. I think MPB is finally fully staffed after many months of not being fully staffed. And then the other announcement that I wanted to clarify is Jeff mentioned about program distribution being covered at TC in April. But then I remembered that one of the reasons that STAC in April was postponed was because the financial data we needed to share with STAC before it went to the TC wasn't available. So I think there is a good chance that the program distribution discussion for TC may end up being in May versus April. I'm not completely certain of that, but just wanted to clarify that. And that's all the big news at HQ at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathleen? Nope. Okay, planning update.
Yeah, Rob Fry with CDOT Planning Environmental Manager. So we're going to be reaching out. So every 4 years we get to reach out to our county commissioners and some of the other staff, municipalities, and kind of do a, best way to put it is state of the region address, I think is probably the best way to do it. About 5 years ago, we kind of combined our county meetings with our long range plan update. We are not going to do that this year. So we're going to work with the counties here moving forward here in the next few months, try to get something scheduled with y'all. And between myself, Jeff, Lindsay, we'll find a date that works for everyone. But what we're looking at doing is mixing it up a little bit this year, is consolidating counties rather than meeting with each individual county separately, consolidate those that make sense. So what we're proposing to do is El Paso County would have its own county meeting, just based on the structure with both an MPO and the TPR, but then look at combining Park, Teller, Custer, and Fremont County into a meeting sometime in the next couple months here, to be determined based on everyone's schedules. So if that's amenable to everyone, we'll start moving forward and pushing forward with that. So that takes care of that 4P process, those county meetings. And again, we are going to be later this year kicking off our long range plan update, the 2050 long range plan update. I think the schedule is going to be coming out, a proposed schedule in May or April, Kathleen?
I am thinking in May, we may be discussing it internally with statewide plan team first.
So it'll probably be later this summer, early fall would probably be the kickoff for that. So just again, there'll be a lot of planning meetings. They are separate, but still related. So we'll be working with you here in probably the next month or so, trying to get something scheduled and try to find something centralized to make it easier. Shane has committed to doing those in person. And so we definitely want to try to get everyone in the same room, but we'll leave the option there as well to join remotely as well for those that can't make it. Because again, we want as much input as possible. Questions?
No, I think those are great. Thanks for doing them in person. I think you get better dialogue when you're in person. So yeah, just get with it. It's hard to get, it's like herding cats to get all of us commissioners together at once, but it can be done.
Yep, we'll definitely work with your schedules and find out what works best.
Not always. Not during legislative season. Fridays are not any good. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know if we're gonna have a transportation
TC. Just say
TC update. Commissioner had to get off because they were having new commissioner swear-ins or swears at something. So unless anybody else has a TC update, nothing. They're swearing in new commissioners. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 8th in Fairplay. Wherever that Castillo Avenue is, I don't have a clue, but it's not hard to find in Fairplay.
It's our county building.
Okay.
It's a
Not hard to
big
find,
building
no.
up on the hill.
I watch enough South Park, I can find anything up there. Is anybody? It's totally different, I tell you. That is all of that we have on the agenda. Is there anything anybody else would like to bring up at this time?
Commissioner, if I could.
Yes.
I apologize, I didn't bring it up when we were talking about MMOF. But the last time we had a call for projects, we had municipalities present their applications at one of the TPR meetings. And so if we don't want to wait until, what is it, July?
July.
I guess October's meeting or
Yeah.
whatever, then we should give everyone a heads up that they might need to be presenting applications at that next meeting.
Good point. We did it at a regular meeting last time. I thought we did it at a special
Or
meeting.
we could do a special meeting too.
I think we did a special meeting, but
Okay.
either way, I mean,
Yeah,
I kind of like the special meeting.
yeah, because then that's all we focus on.
yeah.
But with that being said, we need to figure out what date we want to do that to make
Sounds
that
good.
happen.
We'll create a timeline
Yeah.
and send it to you.
I think that's better. That way we just focus on that and the rest of this is in its own meeting. Thank you. Anybody, anything else? Good of the order? Okay, we will be adjourned. 7:21. Thank you, everybody. Safe.